Holy excitement. This is one that I watched all the trailers for the season and just knew was going to be something that I wanted to cover. And it has not let me down. The Witch and the Beast is one of the best action fantasy series of this season. Like, holy crap. Sure, we've got plenty of lewd romances, which I love to death, but you need a good action series with a little magic, and this hits the spot. Like, honestly, I didn't think it was going to be this good personally, but I had faith and it delivered. So let's talk about this episode and we'll kind of get my general thoughts at the end here. So it starts off, and right from the get-go, we get kind of a backstory lore, which I do very, very much appreciate because it is so dang nice when they do that kind of stuff and not, I guess, drag it out and make it about the whole thing. So we find out in this world there's witches, right? And there was the 17 original witches, and they had this lineage, and they inherit all the magic and the craft and all that fun stuff, and they can place curses on people. And there's three ways to get rid of the curses. One is to have a loving kiss from Prince Charming or your true love, kind of like most fairy tales. And two is if the hateful witch has a change of heart, which definitely seems like one of the more harder options to obtain. And the third one, they don't quite tell us yet. That's something that comes up later in the episode, which I do really appreciate because it adds to that depth and that layer where you're like, okay, so something's gonna hopefully come unraveled this episode, and it truly does. And it leads to this awesome climactic buildup, and the fights we do get later on, it just seems so freaking worth it. But we flash forward to our main characters coming off a train. One looks like a priest, and the other one's kind of this girl that looks kind of, I don't know, gothish, and it looks like they're in Paris or France or somewhere in Europe per se, and their names are Ashaf and Guida, and these two look really like these kind of people that obviously are a little bit of ruffians, and not much is really known about them from the start. They get off the train and they're looking for somebody, right? So they get to this guy at this clerk counter and they're asking for a witch because apparently we're hunting witches. And that's not exactly right off the bat what they say, but when you see a guy carrying a huge coffin and another girl, you kind of get this assumption, right? And they have this dark persona and vibe to them that I really dig. Like I said, the character designs are pretty top notch. And so of course the guy at the counter is like, everybody knows the witch, but this girl's gonna be the most handiest right here, coincidentally. And there's this girl at the counter, and she's, I guess, not a prodigy, but a follower of this witch because, well, they explain it a little bit, but we'll get to that. So they, ask about the witch, and she tells them that, she can bring them to her so that they can introduce each other. And because everyone in the city knows her because she's quote unquote the savior of the city. And so take that as you will, right? Within 2 seconds, this glass window that is facing by this train station just shatters into pieces, and Guida just starts running outside before Ashaf can even freaking get to the situation. And it's this huge megalodon shark with arms and scales, which is kind of weird if you really picture it, but it works. And it's definitely all hand drawn, not CG, so it looks crisp as hell. A little CG, not that much though. But I digress. We get to the next scene, and we see this lady with a bag of looks like wine and everything in this nice blue, button-up jacket with a nice white scarf and gray hair, which is who we are. We find out in 10 seconds, but presumed to be the witch. And we go back to Ashaf and the other girl that was, the quote unquote prodigy. I can't think of her name at this point in time, but she's there and she's, explaining to him, she's the hero of the city, and that, what student wouldn't be excited to see their mistress succeed? And so, she's all, everybody's worshiping her, the civilians and this girl, and apparently the shark guy was a warlock, and because we got warlocks in this series as well. And the guy was attacking her to remind them, the things that witches have done before, which we will find out also later in this episode, to this city and all of the evil deeds that they have done. And clearly there's some people that still recognize what's going on. So we get to see within 10 seconds, like before everything can calm down, Guida comes and jumps and tries to just knock out the witch. But the witch puts up a barrier, stops her in her tracks, puts a bind on her. The cops grab her. And of course, the other girl realizes this is what, obviously her whole point was to freaking attack this witch. And, she's coming off the top, and Guida's like, why would you believe this bitch? She's a witch. You know what witches have done to everybody? And the witch is just smiling the whole time. You can just see this sinister grin on her face. Like this lady clearly knows that she is up to something, and that these two are going to try to stop it. But like, obviously you got to put the facade if you're going to make all the people trust you before you make some chaotic move, So of course, we come to find out from Ashraf, who comes to pretty much save her, that this isn't exactly their main mission to kill her, right? So freaking, he's got this like really cool power that'll like, these crows come, right? And they like, that's how he like teleports, right? And like, I don't know if that's exactly what I'm looking for, but they take him before the situation gets really bad, and like transfers them like away. And it's like, it sounds really bad coming out, but like, it's really cool just the way they do it. But Ashraf, before they disappear, says they'd like to have a word with her, but before they can really do that and disappear, they're getting glasses and like everything chucked at them. Who knows where these citizens even got these glasses to chuck at them? Like, they just carry them in their pockets just in case they need to bottle some heretic or something. But they're chucking glasses at the two of them and telling the cops to arrest them. Before they can do that, they do the teleport scene, and we get a little more history on the backstory, because obviously we kind of need to know what's going on in this city. And roughly, it says pretty much 400 years ago, a witch cast a curse on the city, and they crucified her and just murdered her, and the curse was quote unquote sealed. But that's a little bit of the backstory. And the two of them go to the house with the witches at, and it's this huge mansion, right? Like, even Guida's like, this looks way too big for a witch's house. But, you got all this time in the world and the trust of these people, you're going to get some nice stuff. But they get to her doorstep, and this whole like group shows up, and they tell them that there's a party tonight. And before we can even ask, the girl from before comes to the gate to let all these people in. And of course, she doesn't want to let them in. She's not going to let them in because it's her mistress, and these guys are just coming to like, attack her right off the bat. And that's not exactly what she wants. But you know what? She probably has it coming. So they ask her what the party's about. And of course, she doesn't answer them because, let's be honest here, she probably doesn't even know herself. But she gives like this heartfelt speech about how the witch is the savior of the city, and she's putting everything into it, and she even saved her after her years of hardship and got rid of discrimination of witches. And before they can leave, obviously, because she's not letting them in, our boy Ashraf tells her, look, I can't probably change your mind, but what I can tell you is don't believe everything you hear, which goes obviously not just for witches, but for real life too. And he explains how, like she said, like the witch is like, sealed the curse away, but he gives an explanation that it's definitely something other than a curse, because witches like can't seal curses away, obviously. So like there's some rules and laws that you kind of have to abide by in this world that I think we're going to learn as this story goes on. But he, don't put too much trust into this woman. Every rose has its thorn. And that's pretty much this scene. And I do love the aesthetic of, he's got the ear chain, smoking a cigarette the whole time. Like he's that guy of this series, just the quiet badass. And that character is an essential character to every series. You need that quiet badass. I mean, look at, like Black Lagoon, and you got all of these key characters that, you got the big mouth and the silent badass. So there is that. But after that happens, she goes back to the witch, and she's telling her how she kicked them out and that she can't stand them slandering her. But of course, the witch has this nice little smirk on her face, because obviously you can kind of tell she has something planned, but we don't know exactly what. So Guida and Ashaf are at the hotel, and Ashaf had some research to do to kind of figure out what this anniversary was, and he figures it out pretty dang quick. It's the anniversary of the fire we learned about earlier, and it turns out that people are kind of forgetting about it, but it's time for them to go and attack, because we learned a little bit later what's so significant about this date. However, we need to get to that point first. So we get out to the middle of the hotel, the cops are there, and the witch has told them that they should arrest him and her. So of course, obviously, it's even more suspicious now to the fact that she's trying to stop them from stopping her. You know what I'm saying? So he does the whole crow raven thing again, and they get outside, and there's cops surrounded everywhere. And freaking Ashaf gives this nice little well, you guys are such hardworking folks. And just obviously she has deceived the hearts of all these people, but just the way he says that just makes it so freaking funny, So we cut back into the witch's mansion, and the girl that was, praising her before wakes up in a circle of flowers with her feet cut off, blood everywhere, freaking out because everybody else that was there was also in the same boat. And the witch even tells her, I snuck a spell into your bodies during your training. And she wants to know what the spell's for, obviously, because everybody's freaking bleeding out without their feet in this big freaking flower circle, hippy dippy stuff. And pretty much she says, to release the hellfire that sleeps in the city, the hellfire that quote unquote the witch from 400 years ago got rid of. And we come to find out that the witch that got, murdered was actually this witch's grandmother. And the fact that her grandma got murdered is why she wants revenge. And she waited 100 some years because this is the most opportune day to release the seal of the curse. And of course the other girls calling her, a monster now, and that the people that she really should be getting revenge on are long gone. But before any of this, really can happen, the city is just burning, right? Just burning down. There's people on fire. The hellfire's been released. And this witch is just celebrating. And while she's celebrating, freaking Guida just jumps in there through the window and just straight up tries to get her and punch her. But the witch casts this spell and gets her stuck in this tree. And you can tell she just looks down for the count, right? And the witch is like, I'll give you, even for your lack of skill, you dared to challenge me. But obviously it was for a distraction. And Ashaf is casting a shield trying to get these people out of this key so that she can't have this opened up anymore, and then on top of it try to save their lives. And he's even she's kind of asking who they are as people, obviously, because they're coming around trying to stop this witch. And he even says straight off the bat, you don't open your heart to people, especially witches. And right after that, the witch is talking about how she's, like I said a little bit earlier, giving to people what her grandmother got, even though it's been that long of a time. And the girl again is this isn't right. And right after that, freaking Guida comes out of this tree, just clothes ripped to shreds, beat to shit, talking about she just hates witches. And you find out, obviously, their main goal is to stop her from doing this. But we also find out on the side note that Guida actually has a curse, and she's, trying to check all these witches while they do their job to figure out which witch cursed her. And of course, they're talking about how hard it is to remove. And we also come to find out that she's not the witch that quote unquote cast the spell, so obviously she can't lift it. And then she talks about, obviously, what we heard in the beginning, which is how there's 2 ways to remove a curse. And Ashaf goes, no, there's a third way. And this is where we find out the third way, which coincidentally is you kiss a witch. And so the witch pierces, this is really cool, it has a spike spell that comes out of the ground, which almost reminds you of Rudis in Mushoku Tensei, where he does those spheres. It reminds me of that, but she stabs Guida in the stomach, but Guida grabs her and kisses her. And this is where we find out, which is even more cool of an aspect to me, that we have a dual personality thing going on. Not personality, I guess dual body persona type of thing. So Guida is actually this like really badass mother effer. Like within that second we get the kiss, this huge like almost like thorny black tentacle thing comes shooting out to the coffin that Ashaf is carrying, and Guida's other side comes out, and holy crap, got a nice like fur blanket just shredded with a mask on and white hair but the same ear piercings. And of course, Guida hasn't fought in a while because who knows how long we've had this curse, which is something we're most likely going to find out later on throughout the series. But, you know, gets up there and the witch is just shooting everything. And the witch is terrified because, you know, doesn't know what kind of power that she's feeling from this, but she knows that it's a strong power. And of course, the other captive girl's like wondering why he's not helping Guida out. And of course, it's a matter of fact that, you know, he's only like a first class mage or warlock. That's all he's got for himself. Or it is mage, I guess, either or. And so, you know, telling her how Guida is like a beautiful but yet terrifying creature. And Guida just dodges all these spells like it ain't nothing, and does one of those classic 1-2 left hooks where you can see the fist bulging out the witch's back and drops her down. But after he drops her down, he collapses, and obviously Ashaf's carrying the female body, which we come to find out right after this scene, because they're outside of the city borders, that a kiss can undo a curse, but it's not forever. So the other two methods are more obviously what's the word I'm looking for? More practical, but that's the one method that worked temporarily to take care of this situation, you know. So obviously Guida's back in this female body, so it also leads me to wonder if this is like a two-bodied-esque persona thing, or if it's like, you know, obviously a body that they like found along the way, or somebody they know, where the, you know, the soul goes into. I don't know, but we will find out hopefully, and I'm very excited to find that out. And so we go back to the girl that was the witch's follower and all the other people that are, you know, were locked up, and they got their feet back. So I'm assuming it was just a spell to like make it so they can't run or something. And they're all tucked in the corner, and the cop comes to check on them and see if they're okay. And she says like the best, like not the best quote, but just like the most ironic quote of the whole episode so far. And she's like, for better or worse, I guess you can't judge people by appearances, because you got this nice cute little witch and these two were actually the saviors of the people, which is ironic. And so we get this flashback to before they left the city, so maybe not like a few minutes ago, and she asks them what their job is, and they tell her that their job is to bring witches back to the order. And I'm assuming that's like, you know, to just in order to destroy the witches that are just destroying and pillaging these towns. And that's the end of the episode. We get a little sneak peek for next week's episode. However, it is what it is. You know, overall, this was fantastic. I loved the living hell out of it, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. For a first episode, just episode based, not obviously series based, because I haven't seen this whole series, I'd give this like a solid 10 out of 10. You couldn't ask for too much more for an opening episode, and I like that. Studio wise, I'm trying to think what studio it is. Yokohama Animation Lab, which I don't exactly think I know what other animes they have done. I could probably just look and find out really quick. You know, but either or, I really appreciate this work. The animation's nothing over the top, but they did a pretty damn solid, fantastic job. And I appreciate when a studio does that. It makes life so much better. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's gonna be my talk for this episode. Let me know what you guys thought down below in the comments to see if you guys are as hyped as I am. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It means a lot to me. Hit that subscribe button if you're feeling generous. This has been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.